Hey Stanley,
Hey, Justin, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's a midweek.
Yeah,
Weekend is 2 days away, so really looking forward.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a long week.
So hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today on a Wednesday. We hope your week has been going great. And I'm Jia Xing from the Google Developer Relations team. Before we begin today's session organized by Go Singapore, let me just share a little about Google Developer Space for those of you who may not be familiar. So it is a platform for developers and startups from around the region to learn and connect with one another. We have a physical space in the Google Singapore office, but due to COVID, we moved everything online. And so that's how we started our YouTube channel, so which probably many of you are watching from right now. And as part of the Google Developer Relations team, we aim to empower and connect the community to our people, programs, network, and technologies. And we are really excited for the awesome speakers and sessions we have lined up for you today. So Stanley, I think many of you will be familiar with Teck Chun from Go Singapore. Today we have a new face, Stanley. He's super active and he has been helping out a lot behind the scenes. So over to you, Stanley, to introduce more about yourself and Go Singapore.
Thanks, Justin. Hey, go first. Welcome to our April meetup. I think it's been almost a month since our last one. Shout out to our Google Developer Space folks who have been working very hard with our co-organizer, me, Abel, and Teck Chun, who have been working hard as well to bring you this event. So before we start our event, I would like to bring in Ari, who will be giving out some awesome JFrog swags. Who doesn't want swag, right?
Thank you so much. Can everyone see my screen and hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Ari Waller, and I'm the Meetup event manager for JFrog. And we're really honored to be here once again at Go Singapore. I'm not sure if you all realize this, but this is actually the fourth JFrog speaker in the last 2 years. So it really means a lot to be part of your community, especially during these trying times that we face. So thank you again for that. I'll share just a little bit about who we are. JFrog is a DevOps software company. We were founded in 2008. Many people in the DevOps community know us best by our flagship product, Artifactory, which is considered by many to be the gold standard for managing your artifacts and dependencies. So what does this mean for Go developers? Over 3 million software developers and DevOps engineers use our software on a daily basis. Here's something that you may not know yet. JFrog actually has a free cloud version of our software, especially available for the Go community because it ties in seamlessly with the Go package manager. And if you're working with Docker, as I'm sure many of you are, JFrog's free tier on the cloud is capable of functioning as a pull-through cache on Docker Hub. And here's the best part. Since JFrog has partnered with Docker, you'll also be exempt from any rate limits on pulls from free or anonymous accounts. But now on to the good stuff. As you can see on the slide, you can scan the QR code, and I'll drop it in the chat shortly as well. But I think the bit.ly link is pretty easy for you all to remember also. We are going to offer one of 5 limited, actually I'm going to increase it to 10 instead of 5. One of 10 winners of limited edition Go t-shirts with JFrog. And I think was it Stanley? Did you have one on? Who
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, all right. He's a much better model than I.
Thanks.
And we're going to be able to offer you also one of our liquid software books. It's a book written by several members of the JFrog team and authored. So we'll send that out to one of 10 winners, and you'll be contacted by email if you join. So join the raffle. So we're excited to give those out to you. Winners are going to be selected in 2 business days, and you will be contacted via email. And then we may even congratulate some of you on social media as well. Last but not least, I just wanted to share a little bit about our free annual DevOps Global Conference that's going to be coming up. And that is, it's going to be on June 1st through the 3rd in Asia. And JFrog wants you to get in for free. Besides this sample of some amazing speakers that we're going to have, we're also going to have an amazing CEO panel from HashiCorp, PagerDuty, Datadog, Elastic, and of course, we can't forget JFrog, where there's just going to be some really awesome talks throughout the day. So we want everyone in Go Singapore to come in for free. And there is the QR code. But as usual, I will go ahead and drop that in the chat so that you will have that as well. But again, I'm sorry if I took a few extra seconds, but I just want to thank you again. We're just really honored to be part of your community, and you all do such a great job doing that, especially in the virtual times that we're in. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ari. I'm totally in love with JFrog, right? I love the design. So let's start our event. So today we'll be welcoming two speakers, Utkarsh from JFrog as well, and Iman from Zendit. So yeah, So first we'll welcome Utkarsh onto the stage to talk about unit testing in Go.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and I'm glad. Yep, I'm glad to be here today, and I hope you guys are doing very well in this middle of this pandemic. So let's get started. So there is a very famous quote from Ellen Perlis, and this is from the very beginning of the software development around the 60s. This quote is from his talk. He says that a software system can best be designed if the testing is interlaced with the design instead of being used after the design. So it is not a new idea. It was there from the very beginning. And I really advocate that writing unit tests as part of your development process. And it really helps. Okay, let's understand why it is important. So who am I? I am a Go developer, and I have been programming in Go from past 4 years. In fact, I started my career with the project which is written in Go, and I have been part of the community software projects in JFrog lately. But recently, I joined X-Ray team, and I'm contributing there. Apart from that, I'm an open source contributor. I have made contributions to many open source projects like Kubernetes CSI, Longhorn, Ceph, etc. And I'm a part-time writer. I share my learnings in a blog on Medium, and I'm an early morning person. Okay, let's get started. So this is the same slide that Ari has shared. You could probably scan this QR code and win swags. All right. So these are some of the top topics that we are going to cover. Unit test, what, when, and why. Unit testing workflows like table-driven testing, behavior-driven testing, unit testing techniques, and there will be a short demo. And after that, there will be a summary what we have learned so far. And then there will be a Q&A session. Okay, so when I started my career back in my previous company, everything was tightly coupled with the Kubernetes ecosystem and containers. So you guys probably heard of project OpenEBS, which provides containerized storage for the containers. So one of the main difficulty was whenever we are making any changes, which is logical, we need to deploy a Kubernetes cluster and build an image and push it to the Docker, and then deploy our changes to the Kubernetes cluster and then test our changes. So this process is really very cumbersome, and which was making our development cycle very slow. So what we have decided that we will make our code very abstract, and we will write unit test and improve the test coverage so that we can test our changes quickly, whether it is logical or it is anything, so that we don't have to deploy anytime and go to the Kubernetes cluster and test everything. And we can we can test our changes immediately by writing unit test cases and modifying. So during that day, I realized how important unit testing is for any project, and I really advocate everyone to start unit testing as soon as possible, because it really reduces the chance of making mistakes in your project. Okay. So what is the unit? If you ask this question to people, they will probably say unit could be a method, a class, okay, a package, anything they will name as unit. But in Go, you design your test case keeping package in a mind as a unit. So in a Go, a package is known as a unit. So you have to design your test cases accordingly. So this is just a basic definition of unit testing. It is a way of testing where you mainly focus on the behavior of your unit rather than you go deep and spawn some of the environments and then test your changes. So it basically means that you have to test the behavior. You will provide some input and then you will expect some output that is matching your behavior or not that you had expected. Okay, what unit tests are not? So this is a tweet by Dave Chani. So he writes that it takes, if it talks to the database, if you are communicating to a database in your unit, then it is a not a unit test case. Okay, if it is communicating across the network, it is calling some REST APIs, then it is not a unit test. If it is creating reading from file system, then it is also not a unit test. It cannot, means at the same time you cannot run multiple test cases, then it is also not a unit test case. So what we have to do, we have to remove all the third-party dependencies or any kind of dependencies that is required to run your unit test. You should only focus on your business logic, not on the other logics. Okay, you should only focus on your business logic, not on the environment. So we will learn about this, how we can do. Okay, 5 unit tests in Go. It really helps in verifying small changes, especially refactoring and debugging. Suppose you are just now make any changes recently and you want to validate it. So what the usual process is, you will build your binary, push it to the your pipeline, and then you'll see the logs and verify whether you have written correct or not. But it will take some time. You will make some changes, deploy to pipeline will take its own time. But to verify the same changes immediately, it will be better to write a unit test and then make some changes, do refactoring, and then validate whether it is working or not. Let's quickly go through an example and we'll come back to this slide again. So there is this function, small change. It is taking two parameters, small and change, which is string, and then it is basically adding those two strings and returning it. So if you see this function, it's not a very big. You can easily, means there is a very probability is very less that you can make any kind of mistakes here. But what about this case? This function is taking 25 basically here in this constant parameter that you see, insert pull request statement, here it is taking 25 arguments. So chances of making mistakes is high here. You could replace, means there could be some string data type, there could be some integers, you could change its place. There's a possibility that you might do that because there are 25 parameters and you might make some mistakes. So unit testing helps in such scenarios, and you can verify your changes quickly, that you have not made any logical errors. In such case, you can rectify it and immediately fix that. Okay, let's go back to the previous slide. Measures the quality of the code. So how do you measure the quality of the code? There are various parameters like cyclomatic complexity, okay, and whether your test is reusable or not, whether you can abstract your code or not. So that's how you measure the quality of the code. So if you think that your code quality is not good, only because you have not written unit test cases, and writing unit test case really eliminates those it really eliminates whatever be the issues with their code, like if it is not if it is having a lot of cyclomatic complexity, or it is depending on some of the third-party dependencies, you can eliminate that using while writing your unit test cases. Okay, it helps in understanding the complex logics. So recently I have been to this part of X-ray team, and it has around 400k lines of code. So if I would start from the main function, and then it will take me almost 6 months minimum to understand entire project, or maybe more than that. I cannot cover everything. So I cannot really start with the main and then learn about a project, and then I will start contributing to it. So if there would have been some unit tests and it is there, so I can quickly pick up some of the part of the code and read it and make some modification, learn the complex logics inside the unit, and learn about a whole project, and immediately start working on some bug fixes or features. So it really helps there in understanding the complex logic, helps in understanding cause of failure quickly. So as I said earlier, if you will if you will do some kind of bug fixes, or you will refactor your code, and there is chance of failure, you can only get it while running your binary in a pipeline or locally. You cannot you cannot know the cause of failure immediately. If you write unit test cases, you will get to know it very early. Helps reviewer to understand the fixes and changes. So reviewer can also go through your test cases, and if there are any kind of bug fixes that you have done, he can quickly go through your test cases and find out, okay, you have covered all the edge cases, and he can understand your code as well by pulling your changes, and you can modify and understand that. It is a great way to learn about a language as well as project. So if you are new to a language, it will really help you, because you will get to learn a lot of new stuff inside a unit that has been used, and as a project, as I told earlier. Okay, so when do you unit test? I will cover this at the end of the talk. Okay, moving on. So there are various testing workflows, like table-based testing, table-driven testing, and behavior-driven testing. So both of these methodologies are widely used in the industry and in various projects. So far, what I have seen, that people usually use table-driven testing for writing unit test cases, and behavior-driven test cases for basically for functional test or integration test. They use behavior-driven testing. They use some tools like Ginkgo, which is written in Go, or Groovy. So we at JFrog also use table-based testing for unit test, and we use behavior-driven testing approach in functional testing and integration testing. So if you follow Kubernetes project, you can also see that they are also using the same pattern. They say it end-to-end testing, and it's written in Ginkgo. They are using Ginkgo framework. So let's discuss about table-based. Sorry for the interruption. So just give me a moment. Okay, so in table-based test, there is a map and slice used to build the input and expected outputs. Okay, and basically what you do, you create a map of inputs and then expected outputs, and then you run your unit test cases based on those inputs and expect outputs. It is easy to implement and easy to extend further as well, because what you have to do, if you find some edge cases, you can quickly add a case and then extend it further and verify your changes. It gives a clear visualization of what's covered and what not. So let's say you are covering you are writing some of the unit tests, and you are adding some of the unit test cases, and you want to see whether you are covering the part of your logic or not. So using unit test, there is a flag called -cover. So while running your unit test, you can just add that flag, and it will show you what has been covered and what not. Behavior driven testing. So it is it's usually the main purpose of behavior driven testing to make it any layman can understand by reading the description of the code. He don't need to understand the syntax of the code. It's written in such a way that anybody can go through the source code and he can see that it's very much readable, and it's helpful in, let's say there are many stakeholders in the company and they want to see whether what has been covered and what not. So in that case also, behavior driven testing works. They can easily read the description and understand, okay, this functionality has been covered. It requires planning and a lot of effort, because you need to plan out what all our features that has been given from the stakeholders, and then you will have to learn the syntax as well, because every behavior driven testing framework has its own advantages and disadvantages, and you will have to learn the syntax. So it's also helpful in understanding the functionality of a project, because once you have covered all the functional tests, anybody can go through it and understand what all the features that it is covering, especially to the stakeholders. Learning curve is little high because you have to learn the syntax. Okay, and Ginkgo and Gomega framework is preferred by various projects. That is very widely used, and people, Ginkgo is a basically BDD library, and Gomega is a matcher library that is used by people. So let's guide you. Let me show you some example how it looks like. So there is this function called sum, which is taking two inputs, and this is the main function from where I'm calling. And let me share that. How would BDD testing will look like? So this is the main function where I'm calling this sum, and here we have main test.go. So describe. So this is a sum function that I'm testing. I'm describing about it, and there is a before each where you initialize your variable, and then context where you add some specification about the test, like what you are going to do, and then expected output. So you can clearly read it like by providing 2 digits at input, it should return some of the 2 digits. And then there is some expected input and outputs. So let's run it quickly. Here you can easily understand that sum, by providing 2 digits and input, it should return the sum of the 2 digits. So it's clearly any layman can understand this, what these tests are doing. But if you run only go test, it is blank, right? It is blank. It is not giving you idea what it is doing. Means unless otherwise there is some programmer who has written this test case, or who knows Go, they can only understand this. Otherwise this no layman can understand of what is written in the tests if it is written in plain unit testing and Go. But using BDD framework, it is very easy to explain it to others. Okay, now coming back to the slide. So this is the same that I have showed now. Okay, now coming to unit testing techniques. So there are various unit testing techniques like subtests and parallel tests. So in subtest, basically there is a one test, then there are multiple tests under that particular test. Then there is a parallel test where you can run test parallelly, each of these tests parallelly. And then mocking, we'll learn about mocking as well. And there is a fuzzing. So fuzzing, I will explain it later, but I will not cover fuzzing since due to the time constraint. So let's quickly jump to the subtest and parallel test. So if you see this code, test sequences, so there are 3 subtests. There are 3 test cases: some test, some other test, and some any other test. And just for representation purpose, I am not calling any function. I'm just doing time.sleep. So if you run this test sequential test, it will run sequentially and it will take 3 seconds to finish. t.run. First some test will run, then some other test, then some any other test. Whereas if you see the parallel example test.go, I am calling t.parallel. So what it does, it spawns each of these run closures in a separate Go routine and runs this parallelly. So it will not take 3 seconds, rather it will take 1 second based on the availability of the CPU. Okay, mocking technique. So mocking technique is very debatable because people usually sometimes recommend, sometimes don't recommend, because it adds a maintenance cost to the project. That's why sometimes people avoid mocking, and they avoid unit testing as well due to the same reason. And if there is a lot of if the project has not been planned very well from the beginning, then it is very difficult for people to start writing unit test cases if projects is increasing day by day. So let's learn about this mocking. There are various mocking techniques that I use and people use it. So the main purpose of mocking is to basically isolate all the extra dependencies, that the third party dependency that you are having, and mainly focusing on what is the behavior of your code or what is your behavior of your business logic. Okay, it will not depend on any kind of third party libraries, or let's say any kind of database or system calls, whatever you are doing in your code. So you have to mock those and test your business logic. So it is a one-time effort, but really helps in verifying your logic quickly. So there are various ways to mock. There is a tool as well, mockgen, which generate mocks for your code. So I will show you shortly. Okay, so one is there is this quote in Golang which is very famous: accept interfaces and return struct. So let me show you the example. All right, so this is the sample app where I'm spawning a database. There is a database.setup, and this is calling new user and then inserting it. So if you see this insert user function that I'm calling, this we cannot unit test this. If means for unit testing this one, I need to start a database, right? Database instance. But there is a technique. The technique is I'm creating an interface, and there is a user structure that is implementing that interface. Okay, insert function. So what I will do while unit testing, I have to test my logic. Let's say here I'm not written many logic, but let's say something like, if there is some logic, if id equal to something, okay, if id equal to 1. So my focus when I'm writing unit test, my focus will be testing only if id equal to 1, or any or if there is any other kind of business logic that I have written. My focus will be to cover that case, not calling database and testing that. So what I'm doing here, I'm calling new user. Okay, so here I'm returning structure and accepting users is a interface. So what will the benefit of this one? So benefit of this one will be, whenever I am testing insert user, I will pass the mock object of the user instance, and whenever mock instance of the users, and this insert will be called. This will not be the calling the database insert, rather it will be calling the mock objects insert method. So let's quickly go through the test. So I have given actually two examples. There is one that I have generated a mock, and here I have implemented the mock. There is a mock struct that is implementing user interface. there was only one insert function, so I'm using that. So there, if you see, there are two test cases. One is test user and test user insert user 2. So here I'm using a library called gomock.new controller. So I will show you shortly. So if you see this mock database, there is a user mock.go. So this file has been generated from a tool called mockgen. Okay, so there is a tool called mockgen, and here I can call this from previous package. Yeah, so this is my file, and there is a user interface, and let's say I want to generate mock for user. So there is a mockgen tool. Mockgen and dot means current directory, and then users interface. So what it will do, it will generate a mock for me. So if you see, this is a mock database package, and it has generated this mock user structure and this insert function, that is the implementation of and that is the implementation of the insert function, which is a mock one, and I will be calling the same insert while testing that. So let's test this. Okay, so let's go to the test again and explain you what is happening. So in test insert user, I am calling, I'm passing my mock user. Okay, that the mock implementation of user that I have created, and in insert 2 there is a gomock.new controller that I'm calling. This is the library that you can use, and here when it will call the insert function, it will basically call mock use this mock database uh, mock database insert implementation, and here is the return parameter that I want in the return, like 0, and in this case I want error, because in the previous case I had test the positive test case, and here I want to do the negative testing, and here I'm providing times 1, means it will run only 1. If you again call this insert user, it will return an error. So this is one way of unit testing, means implementing mocks. Now let's go to the another techniques. So there is this complex function, and it is basically accepting a struct, and it is calling get from db publish. Okay, and then at the end it is calling some notify service. So this code is just for representation purpose. I just my purpose is to explain you what is the problem with this code. So if you see, there's dependency on get from db, which is external dependency on database, and then this is let's say it's using some kind of messaging queue like pubsub. So it is calling publish function, which will again call to the Google Cloud, basically pubsub instance of GCP, and then it will verify the this logic. So my primary purpose is to test this logic ss.field equal to 1, not this one. So I cannot unit this complex, right? So what we can do here to simplify this, so what I have done, I have created 3 functions: get db func, notify func, and public func, and I am passing this to simplify. Okay, get, notify, and pub. So what I will do, whenever I will write unit test case, I will provide the implementation of get, basically mock implementation of get, notify, and publish. Okay, and what it will do, it will give the expected output that I'm expecting. I will return from the functions in the implementation, and then I will verify these logics. Okay, so this way I can test it, but still there is some problem with this one. The problem is, let's say this library or this function that you have used is used by some other packages or by some other people in their different projects. So if you modify this function, this will be a breaking change. People cannot use your function and update their libraries, that latest change that you have done. Okay, so this is the problem with this approach, because you have to change the function signature. So is there a better way? Yes. So what we can do, we can so this is the test case that we are, so in the simplify that I explained now, this is the test case. For this one, I created the function get, publish and notify, and then I'm passing to simplify while testing it. So this is how I explained a few minutes earlier. And there is a better way to do the same thing, that is just do a implementation of simplify in a just wrap in a structure, and put this notify, publish and publish to uh, as a part of the structure. And while testing this, okay, while testing this, you can do something like this. You can create an instance of some struct. You can create a function, disclosure, get, pub, notifies. It's the same stuff that we have done earlier, but now this time I am putting this in a structure, and then we are calling better.simplify, which is testing this function. This way we can avoid we cannot basically we can avoid any kind of signature changes, function signature changes, and it will not break the library. So you can still have the same changes, but it will not break it. Okay, now coming to fudging techniques. So it is a testing technique where you provide some kind of invalid or unexpected any kind of data to your functions and see how it is behaving, right? So in some cases, what you will see, that it is crashing, it is creating some kind of noise in your in your setup. So this really helps in testing and in determining if there is any kind of memory leaks or crashes. So you can get to know about your code and do any kind of chaos testing using fuzzing techniques. So it really helps uh, in such scenarios, because if it will go into the user's environment and they will do their testing and they find out that, they will complain you, right? So it's better to do fudging techniques by your by your own, and test the behavior. I think okay. So why the fudge? So recently I was working on a project, and it was downloading some kind of file and then parsing it, and then it is calling some function that is basically parsing that file, and it is storing in a map of interface. So the problem was, uh, later I made another implementation, and instead of downloading a library, downloading that file, I was passing the exact structure that I needed. So what was happening, there was no check. Like in this case, I'm creating a variable of interface, and this is a string basically. So if I will do I dot string, it will pass, but if I will do I dot float, it will fail, because it is not float type. Okay, so this is how they have ignored in the function. They were directly parsing into the string, because earlier it was being downloaded, so they know that the type will be string. But later, when this was coming as a REST API in the later implementation, this change was broken, because it was not coming as a string, and this check was not there, it was coming as null. So that it started panicking, and the functionality was not working. So this is why we need first testing, so that we can provide invalid and invalid inputs, so that it will break and you will know the change before pushing it to the customer. So there are libraries that you can use. Sorry, I think it's my slide is not moving. Okay, so there are actually some libraries like Google Go Fudge, which is a first testing framework for Go. So it is helpful because you might miss some complex edge cases that I explained of what happened with me. And if you add fudge testing to your code, it really improves the quality of your software. I think there is a problem. It is not moving to the next slide. So I will share from this screen only. Okay. So now coming to when we should unit test our code. So we should always write your unit test for our code. Sometimes time doesn't permit, or your manager won't allow writing unit tests because of the clear timeline, that strict timeline, and you cannot write unit test because you are mainly focusing on deliveries, right? But you should always try to write the unit test case for your tools. It really improves the quality of the software. There will be less chances that you are going to make any mistakes. And if you think it's really easing your job, for me in my previous company, it really in this company as well, I'm finding it very helpful. If there are any unit tests written, I'm able to easily understand and make any kind of changes or fixes right away. Otherwise I would have to go through the entire test code. I have to start debugger, understand the code flow, then I would be able to know and start working on a project for any kind of changes or fixes. Also, if you do not have, because when you start project you do not have integration test coverage, right? So writing unit test case will give you some kind of confidence, while it will give you some kind of confidence so that you can release your product, right? When unit testing will be in place, it will help you in verifying whether everything is logically working or not. Also, if business logic depends on the third-party components, writing mock is one-time effort, but it is very helpful. Also, earlier it was very difficult in Go to, basically you will have to write it manually, but recently, just a couple of years back, there was a tool mockzen that has been in the community from a while, and people use it. It really helps in generating the mocks and making your job a little easier. Okay, so what we have learned so far: testing behavior, not the implementation. We have to test just our business logic, not we do not have to test how database is working. We have to test how our logic is working. Make everything configurable by inheriting them in instruct. Avoid global variables, because if your code is written for any concurrent use, then there might be possibility that same Go routine is accessing the global variables, right? So there is a chance that you may miss, and there is you accidentally add races to your code. Use interfaces if there are third-party dependencies, okay? Because it will be helpful in mocking. Okay, closures helps you a lot in extending your code further. So as I shown you earlier, so there was a get db call, and then publish a call which was calling to pubsub API. Then there is a call to notify. So these are all third party dependencies. So if you really have to, so the benefit of this one, today you are depending on a pubsub. Later, if the need arises that you want to switch to RabbitMQ or Apache Kafka, it will be very easy for you, because you will have to just give the different implementation of the same function, right? Earlier you were using pubsub, now you, in some other use case, you are using Apache Kafka or RabbitMQ. You just have to change the definition. Your business logic will remain at the same place. It will not going to change. Accept interfaces and returns. As I told you, it really helps you in mocking. Avoid mocking networking. Instead of make helper functions to test the functionality. Let's say you are spawning up a server to test your some of the changes like REST API and all. Instead of that, you just create some kind of mock functions that will do the job for you. It will create some fake response or fake request for you. Instead of spawning a whole server, right? It is not only resource intensive, also it is little bit hard, okay, in doing testing. Although Go itself provides some test server, which is really helpful in such cases. But I would say mocking is a good idea than creating your own server or starting a server. All right, so these are some references that I took help. And there are some more links. This is the link to my blog that I have written. If you want to learn about Ginkgo and getting started with it, you can follow these logs. There are 3 parts. And then there are few quotes. Testing is hard only if your code is not organized well. And writing unit test really helps in organizing your code. It improves the quality of your code. And these are guidelines, not rules. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Utkarsh. That was a great talk. So we have some question coming in from
Thank you.
our YouTube. Let me just pull them up. So first question from Sirin. What are your techniques to avoid fragile tests? An example is a change causes a large number of tests to fail.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, could you hear the question just now? Sorry, Utkarsh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, yeah. So what are your techniques to avoid fragile tests?
Sorry.
Oh yeah, so there's a question that came in from YouTube. What are your techniques to avoid fragile tests? Like a change that could cause a large number of tests to fail. Yeah.
Yes. So actually, there is no such techniques to avoid fragile test. It really depends how you have written your business logic, or especially it depends on your implementation of your methods. So if you are changing your behavior rapidly, right, just follow the approach that I have shown you. If just use closures approach so that you can change the implementation on the fly when you are going to test. And if there is some behavior that is changing rapidly, like I gave you example, like if you are using pubsub today and tomorrow you want to make use of rabbitmq, so what you have to do, you just have to change the definition, right? Change this implementation of that function, so it will not break. Later you can anyhow switch that. Today you are using pubsub, tomorrow you can easily switch to that, because your business logic will always remain same. It will not going to change. Infra will change, but your business logic won't change, right? So that's how you can avoid fragile test cases or writing fragile tests.
So it's like modularizing your code so that you have clear boundaries, right?
Yep.
Cool, awesome. We have another question from Sirin. At what point is it worth investing learning time to learn tools like MockGen?
Okay, so it's very easy actually. In fact, I thought it is very hard, but today morning I just did some experiments, and it's straightforward. There is just simple command using go generate, means maybe probably in few weeks or in next week or by this weekend I will probably write a blog about it and post it there. It's very easy. Just you can go through the documentation of MockGen and you will find it's very easy.
Awesome.
It really reduces your effort of implementing your mocks by your own, right?
Yeah, please drop the blog link into our event comments if if
Sure.
you wanna write it. Cool. Another question from Mas Aji. How to test if there are any dependencies on the function inside my function?
Yeah, so this is boiling down to the same approach. So there is this slide. Are you still sharing my slide?
Yep.
Yeah. So here, if you see, this is a very, you can say it is tightly depending on the database, get from DB and then publish, right? It is very difficult in this case to test this function. You cannot test this complex function without somehow eliminating the dependency from database or publish, right? So the technique is to use same either closest approach or using interfaces approach. Just accept interfaces and return structs. That will help in modelizing your code and making it testable.
Awesome. Couldn't agree more with that. Cool.
Sorry?
So, oh yeah, I just said couldn't agree more with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any more question in YouTube, but if you have any question, even after Utkarsh session has ended, you can still send in YouTube and he will reply you in the same thread. So thank you so much, Utkarsh, for your talk. That was really insightful. So next up, we'll be welcoming Iman from Zendit to share about Go performance profiling. Iman, please take it away. Sorry, Iman, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Iman. Thanks, GoSB, for having me in this session. Today, I want to talk about optimizing and profiling in Golang REST API. Sorry. Before that, let me introduce myself. I'm Iman Tumorang. I'm an engineer in Sendit, working in the platform and front team. My day-to-day is only like maintaining our core library, like internal library, and in front, I'm helping the team to build the fraud detection system. So yeah, what we're talking about today is what is software optimization and why we need it, what is system profiling, and profiling in Golang, and step how to do the profiling in Golang API, and the final result is how to optimize our Golang API. So software optimization. So optimization is like the action of making the best or the most effective use of situation or resources that we have. Let's say, to give some example, let's say I have a server here, a big server with 100 gigabyte memory and then the 64 core CPU. But then the problem is it's only serving one user. So for this case, the resources is to overkill only to serving one user, right? And then another case is like I have a small server, but it's only 1 gigabyte memory and one core CPU. But it's not only serving one, but it's serving like 100 or 1,000 or even 1 million users. For this case, obviously our server will overload, and the result is our performance will degrade, and the response time will be slower, and maybe the server will be down. So what we learn from these two cases is we need to optimize our server to get the optimal resources. So why we need to optimize, because we want to know what our system needs, and we want to reduce or maybe improve the resources that our system want, and also to increase our API performance. This is the steps that I usually do when to optimize my own REST API. First is like, obviously we need to have one real application that we want to deploy to productions. And the second step is to do profiling to our application, get the data from the profiling, and do decision whether it's safe to deploy to production or we want to improve a bit more. And next is repeat the step until we really confident. And the final step is to deploy. So in this session, I will talk about, I will do a simple study case. First step is like to have the application that really to deploy to production. I already create a simple application, can be found in my GitHub repo. And then the second step is like to do profiling. But before that, I will talk a bit about profiling. I copy this from web. So profiling is like a dynamic programming analysis to measure like how many resource our application run, how long our the execution time, and the goal is like to optimize our applications. And of why we need profiling? Yeah, first also we want to know what is our application needs from memory and from the CPU, or maybe from disks, and know how long is the processing time or response time of our API. We want to know like exactly which code or which function we should to improve. And the last step is like we want to more confident before releasing into production. So for Golang API case, the steps to do profiling is first we need to import the library. The proof is a built-in library that Golang provide in in Golang. The second step is we need to run the application, and then we need to do the load testing. For the load testing tools, you can use Apache Benchmark or AB or Hey. I usually use Hey, and or maybe you can use any load testing tools, maybe like Gatling or Gmeter. And while we do the load testing, we need to run the proof to get the data, to get the insight about our applications. So if you guys can see, I will share this later, but to use the proof is really simple. You only like to import the proof and then uh, create a profiling server. So in my application, I create two port. I open two port. One is for the application port, and the other one is for profiling port. So to give an example, I will do a short demo how to use the proof. So here I have the application here. What I've done is like to import the proof, like only one line here in my application, and then the next one is to open the port for the profiling. I run it on port 8080, and next step is we need to run the application. So the first step is to run and then do the load testing, right? So here I will try to call this API. It gives us the result here, and I will do the load testing. So Hey, if you guys are not familiar with Hey, so Hey is like a load testing like Apache benchmark. Min C means the number of concurrent requests. So I made 50 concurrent requests. Z here meaning the duration, how long we do the load testing. So within the 1 minute, the Hey will do the load testing with 50 concurrent requests to our local server. So while doing the load testing, I will run the proof tool. The command is go tool proof and the port. Yeah, you guys can read this later in Google Docs. So now we are waiting for proof to fetch the profile results to our application. Usually it takes 1 minute or yeah, maybe 30 seconds. Yeah, give us the result now. So here You can see the proof interface. Also, the profiling or the load testing already done. You can see the RPS is 27. It's quite slow. And then you can see the distribution of the response time here, and total status code distribution is 200 with 1,600 responses. And then here in proof, we can check the CPU profile. The comment is like you can just top 10 to get the top 10. You will see the result here. I usually do the when to check if my code is slow or not. If my code really want to improve, is I do the sorting top 10 like based on cumulative. The cum here I will explain later, but basically this one only to sort the based on the response time, the execution time to each function under our applications. So here we can see this is the functions. Fetch articles. It takes 1 second or almost 2 seconds, and you can see the path here is in the handler. Yeah, so this function is take 2 seconds to execute for each duration, its rotation. So after that one is just a simple demo how to import the proof in your project and how to do the to do the proof to get the result from the proof. The next step is to get the data. So yeah, as demoed previously, we can detect the slow code in with the proof. Just like what I've done here. We get the slow code here is the fetch articles because that's our article, right? And I mean that's our function, right? And this one is internal function, so we don't have control on it. But this one, I believe we can still have control. And to get data, another data is we can use to get a graphical data. We also can use proof and also using third-party app. Current case, I use speedscope.app. So it will use like a graphical result, like the result will be something like that if you use speedscope.app. The next is so based on our profiling, our first profiling, we know that the fetch article is slow, and we know we get the result about our RPS is around 27 RPS, and that's quite slow if I say. So we want to maybe to look up if we can to improve. Maybe we want to improve the RPS so it's more faster. Oh yeah, so I haven't talked about proof a bit. So proof is invented by Google for profiling. The list tool command you guys can try in your local using go tool proof.help. Usually for my case, when I do profiling to my application, I use these two commands, top n, and the next param is sort by cumulative or flat. And then the next one is I usually use list command. So list command is to check your function in detail. Let's say I have this. I already know that this function is slow, but I want to more deeper why it's slow, which function, which could make it slow. I can just do like something like this. List fetch articles. It will show us for each line which code the slowest one. So this code it takes 90 milliseconds, but this code it takes 1 seconds only this code. So we know the root cause. Okay, maybe the root cause is the get outer, but then is it the get outer or our function? Why it's slow? We can check again to our functions. Like it's slow maybe because we do a synchronous loop here. You guys can see like this is really a synchronous loop. For every item in the data, we do get outer detail and assign it to the array. So maybe we can improve this maybe like using routine or maybe using batch request to get based on the data. And then this is like the parameter that I've used in the proof tool. Like I said, like I do previously, like top 10 based on cumulative. So coming here is meaning cumulative is total time needed to execute the whole functions. And we also have like a flat here. Also we have a sum. Flat is total time needed to execute the function excluding the external function. So it's the core logic of the function. Sum is just like a covariant percentage of the line. So to give a short example, we have this short function called call me and another function called Budi and called John. In the call me, it calls call Budi and call John. So from this example, we know that the cumulative for the call me function is 5 seconds. Is because when it's the sum of its total second of the function executed, and flat is the core logic of the call me function. Here, without call Budi and without call John, call me only need 2 seconds. So the flat is 2 seconds. This will be useful when you want to know your function. Is it your function slow or your external function is slow? So you will see you can get this. You can use this in the proof as well. Like from here, you know that the cumulative here for the function is like 2 seconds. So also the next thing is using flat graph rendering. Aside using the perf proof, you also can use flame graph tools. For this session, I will use speed scope add. Maybe in production, you guys also familiar with it. Like in Datadog, there already has this feature. But for this presentation, I will use speed scope. This is the example of the speed scope result. So as you guys can see, this is in time frame manner. Like in 7 seconds, we have a fetch article like execute for 4 seconds, and then for how to read this, like this is the core function of the fetch article that we have. So when user call this endpoint, we will goes to fetch article function. So from there we know that this function takes so long to execute. It takes like 4 seconds based on the profiling result. And from the 4 second, the get outer body takes like 3 seconds, 350 seconds, 3.50 seconds. That's quite a lot. So we know that what function we need to improve is this to like how we can ensure get outer by ID sorted and maybe cut a half or maybe like more faster, maybe like we aim to 2 seconds or 1 second. The next step is like after we get the profiling result, we made the decisions. Like we already have the data from the testing that the RPS is 27, and then we have the profiling result. So display that fetch article and get author value make the function slow, and then we ask ourselves, is it okay? Is it acceptable, or do we want to improve? If you guess okay, then no need to improve. But if you guys think that we still need to improve it to make it better, so we need to find the solutions. So for my case, I propose two solutions. The first solution maybe what we usually people think. I like maybe we can do parallel or trading using coroutine. So instead of synchronous fetch for the author details, what if we do like we pass the get author ID to coroutine, and maybe it's faster. Maybe it will solve our problem. Maybe we get the uh, more better result. But then after I tried, uh, after I tried, the result is still quite similar. Like only improved a bit, like from 27 to 41. That's a good thing. I mean, it's already improved. And then maybe the next step is like it's up to back again to your to to the to this part. If is it okay for you? Like from 27 to 40, is it okay for you, or you want to improve to a better result? Maybe maybe some of your friends propose a solution. Like maybe what if like we do a batch query to database to get the author details. That's what I've done here. Instead of doing it one by one using coroutine, I try to batching to the query to get the authors based on the array that we have. So here, if you guys see like this function is fetching the articles from database. Assume it's already like this one is like selecting the title, body, author from the table of articles, and it's written the array. And then what I've done is like instead of passing to go routine one by one, I made an array of the author IDs, something like here, and then I do create a new function get author by IDs and passing the array of the author. And after that, I assign its author to its item, to its article. This function will be returning like a map of author based on the author ID. So if you guys to see the result, the code, here for example, the code, what I've done is like get author by IDs. I pass the author IDs array and will returning a map of author, which is the key is the author ID. And then that function will be called here. And then I'll map the author to its article. Interesting part is that this solution is quite faster and maybe even faster than the previous result. Like I will leave it like maybe I will show the result they have done. So what I've done previously using the new solution It's really faster, like it's 10 times from the goroutine part. It's 500 FPS, and it's handle 107 the request response, and that's really a fast solution compared to previous one. Let's wait here for the real result. Oh, I think this was the resource. Okay, but it's faster. I mean, like the RPS still higher compared to the previous one. This result I done it in when I don't have any application running, so it's quite different. So what we can conclude from this research is like use proof to know which code you should to improve, and then do a lot testing before and after optimize to know if you really make improvement or not. And then optimize after profiling. I mean, like avoid premature optimizing. I've been seeing this in my friend, like when they talk about a slow response time. What the solution that comes first is like directly proposing case. I mean, case is not wrong, but before moving to case, let's try to profile our application to know if there's any slow functions, and then look for the problem and choose the right solution. I mean, here is like for study case that I've done previously. Using coroutine might be not the best. I mean, it's still the best rather than synchronous call, but it's not the best maybe for the study case that I've done previously. Like the batch solution is still better compared to coroutine. And then for the better experience, do a lot testing and profiling in the server. I mean, here, like what I've done here is like do a lot testing and profiling in my local. Sometimes we have a lot of application running in local and it consume our resources. So to get the better experience, maybe you create a copy of your production server and then you spam a staging or idle server and like a client, and then do the profiling from there, like between two servers. That will be give you a better result compared to do in local. Actually, I think that's all from my side. I give back to Stanley.
Thank you so much, Iman. That was a very awesome talk. That's a lot of information to take in. So we have a question here from YouTube, from Sirin. So when do you decide to spend time on profiling and optimization? Should the time be better spent refactoring code to clean up the code base first?
So I think I've said this in previous slide. When should I do profiling is before I deploy my application. So when you have a feature and maybe like a new feature, you need to do profiling first, and then to ensure the profiling is like to know what your server needs, and maybe to know if there's any slow code that we can improve, if even it's like a bit, it's still helpful. Yeah, when is decide to spend time profiling? Yeah, before you deploy your application to production. It's maybe between after QA or deployment. Yeah, something like that. After we do QA or testing in staging, and we want to release to production, that is time you need to profiling.
How about after the app has been running in production? So like, I think there's another side to this question of Sirin. I think Sirin want to ask, like, for those production apps, like when do you decide between whether you want to optimize for performance or you want to like spend time refactoring the code?
Yeah, based on my experience, usually I done it after like we want to improve. Like maybe we want like there's a case like we want to there's like a case maybe the customer already complaining about the response time. That's the time you need to spend time maybe one sprint or 1 month to do profiling for your entire application. The second time maybe when your company want to reduce the cost, so you need to like to know how many servers that really your application needs. That's the time when you need to do profiling and for optimization. But the best solution maybe every time you release a new feature or release a new fix, you need to do profiling to ensure the RPS is not degraded or to ensure your RPS still the same with the previous version. Yeah.
So it should be like part of the test suite, you would say.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me see if there are any more questions coming in. Oh, there's a new question from Mas Aji. Can pre-proof be used for an app that process data from stream or maybe message broker?
Yeah, preproof can be used to preproof is internally will collect all your resources, all your application resources. I mean, like how many memory you use in your application, how long you take for each function. As long as it's under the Golang application, you can still use preproof, even it's like a working key worker or key runner. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's give another couple minutes to see if folks have any further questions. Yeah, I guess that's all the question from our audience. Yeah, if you have any further question there's another question. There's a new question from Wisma. Is there any disadvantages of this profiling method that you mentioned before?
Maybe the disadvantage is like you how to do some automatically. I know Datadog already have like kind of flame grab rendering. You guys can use Datadog for that. I'm not sure for other monitoring provider. Yeah, the only disadvantage is like you need to do this manually. Maybe you need to do this in CI/CD and configure your CI/CD to get the same result. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Okay. Let's just wait for another couple of minutes and see if there are any other questions. I know that you haven't gotten dinner, so yeah, we don't want to keep you for too long, but yep. I guess there's no further question from the audience. So yep, thank you so much, Iman, for the talk today. That was really awesome. Yeah, so I guess that concludes our events today. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Golang SG. And thank you for tuning in today. Have a great evening. See y'all.